Welcome to Keeping It Real with KC. I am your host, KC Phoenix. Okay, so this is, I don't even know if this is a daily thought because I'm covering news here. And this is something, I'm not big on covering celebrities and things like that. That's not really my shtick. However, with this particular situation, I'm covering it because it goes back to something that I talked about before. And I really want to discuss it again now, hence from the title. However, before I go any further, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please listen to whatever podcast works best for you. Or should I say platform works best for you. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. Please feel free to follow, engage, and all that other good stuff. Now, let me get to the Bill Gates, Melinda Gates situation. They were together for 27 years. 27 years they were together. And apparently, they came to the conclusion that it couldn't work anymore. So I was thinking about the entire situation, and obviously people are cracking jokes and stuff. And it's interesting because they were saying that Melinda Gates would get all of this money and everything else. But to my understanding, in what was filed, she didn't ask for spousal support in the filing. So I guess she doesn't need it. I'm sure she may be entitled to some other things, but as for spousal support, ongoing alimony, I'm under the impression that she's not taking it. Okay. The biggest takeaway for me from this is that it's okay to start over. That's what I took away from it. Clearly, they attempted to make it work. It was even said in the article that I read that they did the counseling, they did everything else, which again, if you are in a relationship, whether it's marriage or otherwise, and you've done everything you can to make it work, and no matter what you do, it just isn't working out, it's okay to walk away. It's not a bad thing. Some people, when they get divorced or a relationship doesn't work out, or they leave a situation, like they leave a job or they leave a city or something of that nature, they feel like they failed at something. All you're doing when you're leaving a situation is preparing to start something new. Endings are new beginnings. That's what they are. When you end something, you're beginning something new. That's all Melinda Gates and Bill Gates are doing. Yes, their marriage is obviously ending. I would be shocked if they were like, oh, we changed our mind. I don't see that happening. But the point is that they're willing to both walk away and start over again. And they're not the first couple to do this. Patti LaBelle, I believe she was married for I'm doing this from memory. I want to say 21 years or 23 years. And then she decided to get divorced. It happens. People walk away. My mother did it. My mother didn't get divorced. My parents are still married. My mother walked away from a job. But yeah, my parents are still married. It'll be 48 or 49 years. Actually, this month. Their anniversary is in May. So yeah, pretty sure it's 48 years. So 2 years shy of half a century. Could you imagine being with someone for half a century? Oh my goodness. God bless them. Okay, but I digress. My mother walked away from a job. And for those who have been my long time listeners, you already know the story. But since the listenership has quadrupled over the past few weeks, I will tell the new listeners the story. My mother was working a job for 17 years. She was on the same job. And she just didn't want to do it anymore. So after everything was done, she went back. She got her degree in sociology. And mind you, she was working her job and another job and going to school too at the same time to get her degree. So after all of that was done, the job that she was working part-time, the other job, she ended up going full-time with them and leaving the job that she had worked for 17 years. And I remember when I was younger, because I was in middle school when this happened. This was a long time ago. And I asked her, I was like, why did you leave? Because it was a great company. It was a power company. It was the power company. And she had this amazing office. She did great work. And the money obviously paid the bills. Two-income family, but still. The money paid, she made good money. But I was like, why did you leave? And she said, because there wasn't room for me to grow. That's why I left. There wasn't room for me to grow. And she felt that the job that she was at, even though they respected her work, even though they paid her well, and even though she had standing, she had the plaques and everything of her service with the power company and all of this stuff, even though all of that stuff was there, all of those amazing things, she came to the conclusion that it was in her best interest to walk away so she could grow. Now, throughout that process, it was more than likely uncomfortable for her. I'm not my mother. I'm not a mind reader. I'm intuitive. However, I'm not a mind reader. So I don't know what was going through her head at the time when she left. I can imagine that after working somewhere for 17 years and deciding that you want to pursue a degree and then pursuing a new career altogether when you're 40 years old, I'm sure it can be a little bit uncomfortable, but that goes back to what I had said before and many times before during my podcast on several episodes. Comfort and growth are not friends, and they never will be. With Melinda and Bill Gates, there was something in that marriage where it was determined after, and again, we're all on the outside looking in. We don't live with the Gates. We don't sleep with the Gates. If they passed us on the street, they wouldn't know who we were. It's that simple. As people on the outside looking in, though, we know enough that something in this marriage, something in that marriage happened where they said, you know what? I can't grow with this person. Even though I've been with this person for 27 years, I've been married to this individual for 27 years. I can't grow, and I want to grow. There is still more life left. I don't want to settle for, I don't want to say complacency. Complacency isn't the word. And not being stagnant. There's another word. And it's not coming to me right now. But they came to the conclusion that they didn't want to settle. And that's what it boils down to. If they were willing to settle, and I believe this also goes with people's mindset, what they're willing to accept in life. When people settle, they're almost accepting defeat, and they're almost accepting mediocrity as well, because you're accepting less than what you know you deserve. And they came to the conclusion that they deserved to be happy. They deserved to have a better life. They deserved to be either single and free and living their best life, or in a relationship with someone else who they feel they can grow with, who they feel gets them and understands them and can bring out the better qualities in them. They didn't want to stay together and remain unhappy and just let the time pass and be more of, I don't want to say a corpse, but where there isn't any emotion in the marriage. It's just, it's a business type thing where they stay together just for business reasons. They stay together for optics. They stay together for this or for that, and not for love and growth and excelling and ascension into newer and better things. They made that decision to let it go. And I can't but help respect people like that are willing to step out on the ledge and say, you know what? I don't know what's coming in my future, but I do know I deserve better than what I have right now. And this divorce is not saying that Melinda Gates is a bad person. It's not saying Bill Gates is a bad person. Like I said, I don't know either one of them. And if they saw me on the street, they would not know me. And quiet as it's kept, if I saw them on the street, I probably wouldn't recognize them anyway. I'm not good at that type of stuff. My mother is. She can spot somebody who is considered, I guess, quote unquote, a celebrity or is well known, like a million miles away. My mother always spots them and runs into them and talks to them and all types of stuff. But me, I never catch it. But I digress. The point is that it's not saying that they're bad people, Bill or Melinda. It's just saying they came to the conclusion that they want to grow on their own or with someone else, because clearly in the marriage they have grown apart on an emotional level, and they're willing to take a chance and be possibly alone for the rest of their lives. Because when someone gets divorced, there's not a guarantee they will marry again. There's not a guarantee they will date again. And then some people, they don't want to. I know someone who was married for many years, and that individual told me, no, I don't want to date again. And people were interested in this individual. But that individual was like, I'm not entertaining these offers. I was like, oh, wow. And that individual was fine and still is fine to this day with being alone. But then you have others who may meet someone later. People do marry late in life. There are people who marry in their 50s. There are people who marry in their 60s. And yes, there are people who marry in their 70s. Love does not have an age limit. Well, hold on. Let me add a caveat to that. As long as you're legal, love does not have an age limit. I need to be clear. So yeah, love doesn't have an age limit. You can find love in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s, in your 70s, even in your 80s. You can find love. And some people, they don't necessarily need love. They just need freedom to be who they want to be. What her reasons were, we'll never know. Because again, we don't live with them. If there were any reasons on Bill Gates' side, we'll never know. We don't live with them. We don't know them personally. We just know Bill Gates owns part of Microsoft, which, by the way, I found out he doesn't own as much as Microsoft as I thought he did. I thought he owned at least a good 10 to 15% of Microsoft. He owns like 1 point something percent. And not saying that that's bad, because obviously it's still worth a lot of money. But for some reason, I just thought he owned like maybe 10, 15%. He doesn't own that. Go figure. But yeah, this Bill and Melinda Gates thing is not really that shocking when you think about it. And it wouldn't surprise me if another major divorce happens right around July. And the reason I say that is because Mercury's going retrograde. At the end, it's pre-retrograde, middle of May, goes retrograde at the end of May. And then from the end of May to throughout June, to the end of June, is retrograde. Then it starts to go direct and balance out. But when Mercury is in retrograde, there's a lot of self-reflection that goes on. Not just things being kind of chaos, because also it can be Murphy's Law, too, depending on how you look at it. But the point of Mercury going retrograde, for those who may not know, is for people to slow down and reflect and figure out what works best for them. Also, it's a good time to pick up projects that you started but you didn't finish, too. So if any of you have any projects that you started and you didn't finish, good time to start on it would be really middle, end of May, going throughout June. You'll more than likely get it finished. That's a good time to do stuff during Mercury retrograde. But it's meant for reflection. And I feel that when more people go through this reflection period in this Mercury retrograde, once they come out of it, they're going to have some clarity. And they might come to the same conclusion that Melinda and Bill Gates came to. Okay, yeah, I still have some years left. I don't feel comfortable spending my final years with you. I love you. However, we need to go our separate ways. A change is coming. Endings are new beginnings. And that's why, like I said, I really, really like that. So that's all. I just wanted to throw that out there. I usually don't cover this type of stuff, but I told you I would cover more news stuff. And when that popped up yesterday, I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about that. So there you have it. KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. Thank you to everyone who's been listening and supporting the podcast. I sincerely appreciate it. Until next time, be blessed.